Well, welcome to First ABQ, a place where we are first Christians. Really glad to have you today. Can we talk? Donna and Lizzie are out of town, so I can tell you some stories. I brought a rock home from Scotland, and from the beginning, this has been a little issue with me and Donna. So I took her to a lot of places. One of the places that I took her to was Clackmannan. You've probably never heard of Clackmannan in Scotland. And I took her up to this hill. This particular hill is just a field, and there's nothing special about it. You can see mountains in the distance and a forest. But this is Kennet. This is where the Kennet Bruces got their land down through the centuries from Robert the Bruce. It's also the place where Robert the Bruce loved to go hunting, and he had a palace here that was made of wood. In fact, his son, King David II, right here at this tower, the famous Clackmannan Tower, before it was stone, he sat around as a young boy waiting for the paperwork to be situated for him to take over for his dead father. So Clackmannan, weird name, right? Clack means stone. Mannan means Manu, or the god Mannan. You see, the place has a name that predates Robert the Bruce. And I wanted to come and see this place. And so we came to this area and stomped around and came to this particular toll booth. In the center of town, there is a toll booth. You can't quite see it, but sitting next to it is a long pole with a round stone on top of it, and then another stone next to it. The toll booth was a place built in the 1500s where a sheriff would keep a prisoner locked up. It's kind of the center of town. And the Meerkat Cross, or the Market Cross, no religious significance. It's the one that has the ball on top of it. You kind of would just think of this as the place where all royal proclamations were made, where if you wanted to hear news, you'd go here and it would be spoken about. Think of it kind of like a cell phone tower or your Wi-Fi router, getting information out. But the part I really want to show you is this stone of Mannan. This particular stone predates Christianity coming to Scotland. It is to this sea god that eventually was brought next to the Meerkat Cross and next to the toll booth. You're like, well, wait a second, Brady. Why were you on this hill to begin with? Well, I'm glad you asked. So Dawn and I are walking around in that field, and I pick up this rock that's in two pieces, and I'm hauling it around, and Donna's like, what are you doing? Why are you hauling that around? And I dug this thing up from the ground because part of it was sticking out and kind of dusted it off. And I'm like, I don't know yet. It's a rock. It seems interesting. It's got a smooth edge. Well, what is it? I don't know, but I think it's important, is what I told her. And she said, you're not taking that home. Well, we'll worry about that later. And she said again, well, what does it mean? And I said, I don't know. I'll worry about that part later. It's got meaning because it's something special to me. It's a piece of property, of land, not from the historical site, but of where my family comes from. I've been telling you campfire stories, some of them kind of strange, around this campfire. And in our story today, we've had 6 characters that we've known pretty well. But in our story today, 3 of them get wiped out completely and are gone. 2 of them don't have any more lines in the whole book. And one of them, our most important character, Samuel, totally disappears. He's nowhere to be found. And in this particular show and story, we get to the place where the action happens. A battle happens. Samuel is nowhere to be found. He's disappeared. And it's the Philistines who attack Israel. And they attack them at Ebenezer. Who? Can everybody say Ebenezer? God bless you. Here at Ebenezer, this group of Philistines, they're just kind of the notorious perpetual enemy of Israel, especially early on. And they come straight at attacking Israel. Israel feels pretty good about this. And today, I'm going to tell you 4 stories over 4 chapters. And the first one is one where Samuel is nowhere around. You know, the kid that slept by the Ark of the Covenant. The kid who heard God's voice one night, the kid that we're ready to see be the center of the story, is nowhere to be found. Well, here with the Philistines attacking, they go into battle, and the Israelites are defeated. 3,000 of their men killed. What? The good guys lose? How can that be? Whenever the good guys lose and you're on the side of the good guys, you got to figure out what's wrong with that. In fact, it kind of becomes this theological dilemma. How is it possible that we could lose as God's people? So they get together, and the elders and the soldiers meet, and they're like, well, what happened? I mean, how did God allow us to get routed? And they're like, I got it. We forgot God. Silly us. There's lots of relief, and they get together and they decide, we're going to take the Ark of the Covenant into battle. We're going to get God's presence there, and everything's going to be good, and everyone is relieved finally. We've been there before, right? Moment of your life, kind of forgotten God. Like, oh, you put the cross chain back on, kind of get the Bible out. Maybe you're carrying it around a little bit more, trying to read it. Maybe even taking it to work. You're trying to bring God back in. Maybe even showing up at church. We remember about forgetting about God. Let me read you a few verses from Samuel chapter 4, verse 3. Verse 1. In those days, the Philistines mustered for war against Israel, and Israel went out for battle against them. And they encamped at Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped at Aphek. The Philistines drew up in a line against Israel, and when the battle was joined, Israel was defeated by the Philistines, who killed 4,000 of the men on the field of battle. Then the troops came from the camp and said to the elders of Israel said, why has the Lord put us to rout today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh, so that he may come among us and save us from the powers of our enemies. So the people sent to Shiloh and brought from there the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, who is enthroned in cherubim. The two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were those with the ark of the covenant of God. When the ark of the covenant came into the camp, all of Israel gave a mighty shout, so that all of the earth resounded and shook. When the Philistines heard the noise of the shouting from their camp, they said, what does this great shouting in the camp mean? When they learned that the ark of the Lord had come into the camp, the Philistines were afraid. For they said, the gods have come into the camp. And they said, woe is us, for nothing like this has happened before. Woe is us. Who can deliver us from the power of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with every sort of plague in the wilderness. Take courage. Be men, O Philistines, in order not to become slaves to the Hebrews, as they have been slaves to you, to the men. Be men and fight. So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and they fled, and everyone to his own home, and there was very great slaughter, for there fell 30,000 foot soldiers. The ark of God was captured, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, died. What? The cheer that comes up from the camp is a big one. The Philistines can hear it from their camp. Now, we've all been to sporting events, and you've heard some loud cheers. Think about hearing it across the miles, far away. They're terrified. Their pep talk is terrible. It's terrible. Oh, no, what are we going to do? Men, be men. Go out and fight, or else you'll be slaves to these slaves. Let's go out and do it. I mean, that's not a pep talk. And yet, they're just prepared to lose and go in and win. They win. Now, in this story, the scoundrels die. I mean, who wouldn't be happy that the scoundrel leadership finally dies, right? We've all had scoundrel leaders that we faced, and you just wish they would go away. And yet, you wonder what happened. I mean, Israel did everything right. They brought the priests in. They wanted to have God there. They've got the Ark of the Covenant. Everything seems to be right. Have you been there before? You turn to God. You get the cross on, the Bible. You start doing things. maybe even talking about the Bible at work, and yet things get worse, not better. The scoundrels die, but it gets worse. Eli, the good priest, is concerned about what's happening. He's concerned that the ark is not in the tabernacle, it's out in the field of battle. And he's watching and waiting for the message. And he sees the messenger coming. And the messenger says, it's not good. Israel's lost. 30,000 have died. Your sons are dead. None of this surprises Eli at this point. He's like, oh yeah, sounds familiar. I have heard the prophecy about my sons dying on the same day. But then the messenger says, and the ark of the covenant has been captured. And Eli, a fat man, leans back, falls on the gate threshold, and breaks his neck and dies instantly. Boom, boom, boom. Hophni, Phinehas, Eli, gone. But that's not all. Phinehas' wife is pregnant, very pregnant. She's in labor when she gets the message. She finds out about the defeat, about the death of her husband, and she's not shocked. But whenever she hears that the Ark of the Covenant, the golden box with the tablets of the 10 Commandments, the urn of manna, the rod of Aaron, when she hears that box is in the hands of the enemy, she cries out Ichabod to name this son that's been born to her. She bows her head and she dies. A character we didn't even know about, and she dies. Everyone is dying. We have no one's named Ichabod, right? I don't see any Ichabods. A bad name for a child here is given. No offense to any Ichabods. And yet, everything seems to fall apart. Ichabod means the glory of the Lord has departed. You know, a lot of times we're pretty casual with reaching out to God. We'll have our moments when we're begging for God. We're down on the floor. You know, we want something to be different. Story number 2. Things seem to be going well for the Philistines. They've had 2 big battles. They've got the Ark of the Covenant. They've won the spoils of battle. And they do what you do. Probably our trophies go back to times like this. You're going to put it on display. You're going to put it in your trophy case. And their trophy case is in their temple, the temple to the god Dagon. So the priests go in with the Ark of the Covenant in the temple, and Dagon's standing there, and the priests go in, and Dagon's not standing there anymore. Dagon has bowed down to the Ark of the Covenant. Now that's weird. I mean, we're 3,000 years removed from them. We know statues don't move around. They did too, even though 3,000 years ago, they're going to associate a whole lot more spiritual meaning. But they just kind of just lean Dagon back up. Next morning, same thing happens, except this time, Dagon's head is broken off. His arms are broken off, bowing before the Ark of the Covenant. What a mess. What an embarrassment. No brain, no thought, no thinking, the head cut off, no hands, no strength to do anything at all. Their God is powerless, and they don't know what to do. You know, we've got our own trophy cases. Whenever we're trying to make sense of our life, we've got the notebooks from the conferences, the quotes from the preachers or the speakers. We try to drag a rock from Scotland. We've got all these things that we have that are of value to us. We blend up our spirituality, a little crystal here, a little wall of crosses here, some sand, some water, some oil, and we have our set all place of our spirituality blended together. And yet here, it's weird. Now, this place of Clackmannan, I didn't tell you why it was really so significant for me. A place where my families were given land. And it came whenever my family went to that area, that time period was the 1600s. In that time, Scotland and England were having a civil war with one another. They were fighting with one another. England wanted to assert authority over Scotland. They wanted the king to be not only over Scotland, but over the church. Okay, the king can be over us, but the king being over the church, no, we don't want that at all. And it was nasty. These Scottish Protestants did not want the king. In fact, have you heard of the novelist Sir Walter Scott? Maybe you had to read him. Guy who wrote in the 1700s to 1800s, about 150 years after this time period. He wrote a book called Old Mortality. And just to give you an insight, when a Protestant minister said no to the king, when a Protestant minister signed a covenant saying, no, there's only one king, that didn't go well. A lot of them died. In Sir Walter Scott's novel, whenever they found out these ministers fought in the Bothwell Bridge battle, what the English royalists did was come in, kill the minister, cut their head off, put it on a stake, cut their arms off, form them into praying hands, and parade the praying hands and the heads of the Protestant ministers through town. You cross the king, you've crossed the wrong person. And they would have nothing to do with that. The significance of this is quite powerful. I mean, it's why Scotland fought against centralized authority. It's why the American colonialists fought against Britain. No, we don't want a king. It's why today we have 3 equal branches of government to provide checks and balances upon one another so that the powerful, the wealthy, don't get out of hand. It's not a matter of Republican or Democrat or independent or liberal. None of that matters if we're able to all work together. But wait a second. This is so far removed from our story. What about Dagon? He's laying there with his arms broken off, his head chopped off. That's our campfire story we've stumbled off into today. Well, here in our story, the Philistines are figuring out they don't really like this Ark of the Covenant. In story number 3, they're trying to get rid of it. They decide to share it around to the other towns. Because what happens when the Ark of the Covenant comes into your town, you get a tumor in an uncomfortable place. That's the translator's kind of nice way to say a plague of hemorrhoids hits everyone. And so they don't want it, and they're moving it around. They don't know what to do with this ark. They want it gone. For 7 months, they pass it from one place to another. And this story it's kind of like an upside-down Exodus, a reverse Exodus, where God's glory is shown and coming. Here, God's glory is going away. They want this Ark of the Covenant to just float like Moses away from them. And the wise men of Philistia say, you know what we should do is we're going to build a brand new cart. And on that ark, we're going to put the cart, and we're going to get 2 brand new oxen that don't know which way is up. They've not been trained. And we're going to put a bunch of gold tumors, the hemorrhoids. That's a very disgusting image. I don't really want to think about it. But also some golden mice. And we'll put that on there as an offering. And what this is a scientific religious test. Here's what their wise people say. If the new cart with the new oxen makes its way back to Israel, then we'll know that Yahweh was behind this plague. If the cart with the new cart and the new oxen that doesn't know which way is up, if it goes somewhere else, then we'll know it's just chance. Do you see this? I mean, it's quite a science experiment. It's kind of set up to fail, but you probably can guess what happened. That cart pretty much goes straight back to Israel. And they sacrifice those oxen. They're thrilled to death that the Ark of the Covenant has come back. It's exciting. And yet, where's Samuel? Samuel is not a part of this battle, not a part of holding the ark. You know, I know you're probably wondering, what does all of this mean for us? And I want to give you a little bracket right here, because we want to know what the meaning is to make sense of it. And one thing that I'd like you to notice is that everyone is trying to use God, especially Israel. They're trying to use God's presence for their own purposes. The Philistines seem to be more reverent and concerned about God than even Israel is. But God will not be controlled. He's looking for our hearts and our actions. He wants both. Samuel finally appears in chapter 7. He shows up whenever the people are ready to do something different. And in Samuel chapter 7, verse 3, this is what Samuel pronounces. Samuel said to the house of Israel, "If you are returning to the Lord with all your heart, then put away the foreign gods and the Ashtoreths from among you. Direct your heart to the Lord. Serve him only, and he will deliver you out of the hands of the Philistines." What I want you to see is that Samuel is being very, very clear about what you do when things don't seem to be going well. When you're trying to reach out to God, it's not working well. When you're trying to get rid of God and it's not working so well. What Samuel says is return to God. Don't return to your party. Don't return to your flag, to your t-shirt. Don't return to any of that. Direct your heart to God. Have you ever said the phrase, my heart was in the right place? Maybe you've said about someone else that their heart was in the right place. Whenever we say that, we mean, we know what they intended, right? But their actions didn't quite line up, or maybe things didn't result in the way that they wanted, right? Well, we can say that our heart is in the right place and yet not be acting in alignment with God at all. I think they're trying. The ark gets moved from Shiloh to Kiriath-Jearim. Kiriath-Jearim just means city in the woods. They changed the name. They change it from Bella, which is a wife or a lady. It's the God's wife. So they take away the Canaanite God name and they just say, let's just call it the city of woods, and that's where we'll put the temple. They're trying. Their heart is in the right place, but their actions aren't fully there. And you and I were kind of the same way. God's not the first call we make. Not the second call, not the third call. God's usually the one we call when everything's crashed around us. God's the one we call for the rescue mission. We don't call God when we're purchasing the car or when we're taking the drink or when we're declining the ride home. God's the one we call when our life is a wreck and a mess. Most often we use God to just kind of get our way, to have community as we would want, to have our preferences done. We just use God as a tool. And yet Samuel, the first thing he does is says, get rid of everything that is a God in the place of God. Set it aside. Direct your heart and your action toward God. But there's a second thing that he does. He invites them into a ceremony. He says, all right, we're going to do something to mark this. A ceremony at Mizpah. And Mizpah is a place where what they do is they gather there and they pour out some water, which is very weird. There's no ceremony like this elsewhere. Probably a very uniquely Shiloh, turning their lives over to God. And the Philistines hear about this big gathering. And they decide this is a great time to attack. Think about it. You're in worship. You've been fasting, which means you haven't been eating. So you're not feeling very strong. You're probably feeling like a sitting duck there in worship. And yet, that is when they choose to attack. And Israel is afraid. They've seen what's happened. They've been defeated time and time again. Even though they've tried to bring God's presence in, they've tried to reach out to God, and they don't know what to do. Because they're sitting hungry and tired in church, wondering where God is. We're not there today, are we? Maybe we are. Folks, let me just tell you, when you are in worship, you're not at risk. When your life is focused on God and surrendered to God, you're not at risk. Even if this church falls into the sea, even if your life is taken from you, you're not at risk when you are worshiping God. What they do is they cry out for help, and they cry to Samuel, and they say, Samuel, intercede for us, pray for us. And that's exactly what Samuel does. Interestingly, there's something different that happens here. They don't say, Samuel, lead us into battle. Be our king. Be our judge. They say, Samuel, go to the leader for us. Go to God. And Samuel makes a sacrifice, and he pleads with God. And you can imagine that this is the time when God acts. This is when God confuses the Philistines. This is when the people of Israel find victory. If you are at your worst moment right now, your lowest moment, it's the time to surrender yourself to God. If this is your best moment, things are going so well, this is your time to surrender to God. God is the one who provides victory. What Samuel does is he sets up an Ebenezer. Now I'll tell you what that means. Maybe you've heard it before. It means stone of help. Help stone. A place where God provides help. Before, when they called out and they brought the ark, God wasn't going to be controlled. But here, when they call out directly to God, God is there to help. Often we use God as a tool in our own hands, with our words, with the things that we want done, but God will not be a tool in our hands. God invites us to surrender ourselves to God so that we are the tool in God's hands. Well, Donna has given me some pretty clear instructions that the rock is to go out of the house. I don't understand. I've shown it to a bunch of first friends too, and you could just see their faces fall as they think, you brought a rock home? Why? And I said, well, it's not just any rock. I mean, there's something to this rock. I had to kind of pull it out of the ground. It's got mason's shaping around it into an oval. I mean, it's broken because it got hit by a plow. If you come up and look closely at it, I'd prefer you not to pick it up, but if you look closely at it, you'll see very straight lines on it, mason's lines. If you look even more closely, there's an arrow etched into the top of the stone. What is it? I don't know. And that's why I think so many of my friends, when I drag this rock out to show them, are like, Brady, you're crazy. I mean, they not only ask, why did you bring it home, but then they're like, how? I was like, well, obviously, in the suitcase. Checked one in Donna's and one in mine. Donna was not pleased at all. In fact, we had this little agreement that when we got to the check-in to check our bags, if it was over the limit, I was to pull the rocks out. And I said, we will let the Lord decide. We were way under the limit, I'm glad to say. I don't know what this rock means, but for me, it's physical evidence. It's something that I bring back from family long ago. Family in a time period that stood for something, and that something was God. Stood against what was being said in the world around them and focused in on who their true God was. And I'm asking you. I'm asking all of us to think about what our Ebenezer is, the location of our biggest disaster right now. What's the problem in our life that we can't quite sort out? Is it a struggle? Is it a frustration? Is it a grief? Is it some level of anxiety or disappointment? Maybe it has to do with religion or money or sex or anything at all. I'm asking you to think about where it is that you want God's help and to stop using God as a tool and instead turn and surrender to God. To put away that approach and instead let God be the one that's guiding you. That means we give away what's comfortable, what's familiar. We go with God into something that's new. At a very base level, this is a story that tells us how the ark gets from Shiloh and the house of Eli to a little bit closer to Jerusalem, just a little bit northwest of Jerusalem and the house of Samuel. What is the newness that God's going to do in your life? How is it that you might be using God rather than allowing God to use you? This is your time. This is your time to erect a stone, an Ebenezer, before God's provided the help, and just wait and see what God will do to you. What he will arrange for you and how he will transform your life if you surrender yourself to God. Let's pray. Eternal God, we thank you for being a rock in our lives. You've made the rocks that we can see, and you have made all that we can't see into the skies and the heavens beyond us. And God, we admit that we use religion, we use our words, we use whatever we can to manipulate you to do what we want done. And God, We'd like to be through with that. We'd like to call out to you and say, you are our leader, the only one we need. We're surrendered to you. And so, God, we ask that you'll do a new thing in our hearts and lives today, that you'll break down our old arguments, our old excuses for following you, and become more aware, more real in the mirror with who we've been in your presence. We ask all this through the name of Jesus, who is our King, the only God, with you and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen.